The road to Ljubljana was not a luxury. The road to Ljubljana was not a choice. The road to Ljubljana was a must.
I am Safa. I was born in 1996. I used to live in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, a beautiful city with all of its meanings, where security, safety, and stability prevailed. I lived with the love of a well-off family. My father was a well-established businessman. My childhood was very beautiful, like all children, going to school, learning, and aiming to build the future. And my ambition was to become an important element serving my country. But the great catastrophe came, which is the war on Iraq. The hardship of living in this country began after it became insecure. We went to the north of Iraq to escape from the American aggression in a fear for our lives. But we could not live there. Conditions in all provinces of Iraq were bad. After the American aggression on Iraq, my uncles, my father's uncles, and my cousins were arrested and detained in the U.S. occupation prisons for a period ranging from 1 year and a half to 2 years. After they were released, we sent them outside of Iraq to Syria for their safety, except for one of my uncles who was killed in the prison and one of my cousins who had a store for mobile phones. He was arrested from inside his shop and taken to an unknown place. From the year 2005 to the present day, no one knows where he is. We searched for him in all prisons, detention centers, hospitals, and even in cemeteries, and we didn't find any trace of him. This was the punishment and fate for those who didn't leave Iraq at that time. We had no choice but to leave to Syria. I remember on the day of travel, in the early morning, from a lot of confusion and fear, I forgot to say goodbye to my aunt. This thing made me very sad. The way to Syria was hard and unsafe. We were stopped by militias and by the American troops. We were 9 people in a car for 5. Finally, after 12 hours of driving, we arrived at Tartus at 1 a.m. I remember my feelings as a child: curiosity, sadness, and confusion. At the beginning, we thought that this was temporary, that after a few months we will come back to Iraq. But life never came back to safety in Iraq, and our new life in Syria started, and it lasted for 8 years. We enjoyed a peaceful time in Syria. Many people welcomed us, but some blamed us. They said that if they were us, they would never leave their country. But after conflict started in Syria, this wasn't the case, and many people left Syria because escaping war is not a privilege nor a choice. We came back to live through the bitterness of war in Syria, and it became insecure. Children and adults were killed, robbed, and arrested. One day, when the events began in Syria, we were living in Latakia, specifically in the Slaba area. The army came to the area. Children were playing soccer in the park. The army took one child who was playing with other children. They took him just because he chanted some words against the government, even though he didn't understand what these words meant. Even though he was only a child. After a few days, they left his dead body in the street. It was a very sad scene. I remember how the mother saw her son killed and how she was crying and screaming in front of everyone. In the year 2012, we realized that we have no choice but to return to Iraq. We were hoping that it would be possible to resettle there, but we were not lucky. It was and it is still not safe in Iraq. I remember the moment when I learned the news that we obtained a residency in Slovenia and that we will travel there. It was after a lot of efforts and determination from our father, who was afraid for our safety. At that moment, I was very happy that I would come to Europe. I thought, when I come here, everything would change for the better. But when I came, I realized that I was wrong. I realized that migration might give you safety, but it strips you from many other things. I used to think that in Europe there is no racism, but on the contrary, there is a lot of racism and discrimination. Discrimination stripped me from a lot of my social rights. It stripped me from my dreams for professional and educational development. I remember one time when I went to a job interview Once I entered the interview, even before sitting down, and even before the interviewer asked me about my name. She asked me, "Are you going to remove the headscarf?" When I told her no, she said to me, "You cannot work with us. You must remove it. If you don't remove it and adapt to the situation here and be like us, you will never get a job or study." I hope the world will change her view. I hope people can see me for who I am. I hope the world will not judge people based on labels and false news. Despite these challenges, I found a job in an organization. Now I work as a research assistant and painter. I like to paint for inclusion and interculturalism. Sometimes I look to myself in the mirror and I wonder what some people see. I hope they can give us a chance to see our goodness and to see us for who we really are.
For many people, bag is an object. For me, a bag can be my life, an essential part of identity and being. I arrived to Ljubljana 10 years ago with no people, with nothing, but just with one bag. My way to Ljubljana was not an actual thought. My way to Ljubljana was not an actual plan. My way to Ljubljana was an outcome of a moment of realization, an actual moment of discovering how becoming me can be as hurtful as a bullet. I had an experience of how being me made me discover how words may hurt, how words may shatter the sense of safety, stability, and belonging. How words can be as powerful as a bullet with its amplified sound, shattering a dream of a little child, a child who grew with the smell of a farm. My journey started in a calm and peaceful village. Seeing the colorful world through my mother and dad, I had my own doubts when family friends were asking if I am a boy or a girl. For me, I was simply me. I was comfortable with my own skin. A little girl with a short hair. A little girl who enjoyed shorts more than skirts, soccer more than Barbies, and definitely enjoyed being the little girl who is out of social boxes. As a child, I never minded the words that questioned my being and existence. Not even that time, when a woman looked at me and said, "You're supposed to be born as a boy. You are a mistake of God." I remember the echo of these words, tackling my deep thoughts. But as a bright child who is surrounded by father's and mother's love, I just let them go. I remember that specific time, staring at myself in the mirror, recalling this statement: "You are a mistake of God." I looked deep in my eyes. I looked close enough, trying to reach for God. I learned that God is a perfectionist. How come it did a mistake? How come I am a mistake? Am I a mistake? I left it away and moved on. As the years passed, I changed my outlook, trying to fit in, trying to avoid the hurtful words. I got a boyfriend. I drew on a smile, surrounded by parents' love, avoiding the rough words of people's unjustified doubts. But life is a dream, and death is our wake-up call. The moment I lost my father was a stressful moment, a moment that I would never forget. It happened out of sudden, stripping me from all of the illusions I surrounded myself with. For the first time, I started to question the concept of life. Am I living for myself or for the people around? Who am I and what I want from my life? My essential nature spoke out for itself. I broke up with my boyfriend. I cut the tuft of my hair, the tuft that I felt they were tying me to boxes of whom I shall be and how shall I look. Tufts that were tying me to somewhere where I do not belong. By doing so, I liberated myself, but I had to pay for this liberation. I had to leave my village where people stigmatized me because I am not the typical woman that they wish to see. I left from my village to Ljubljana with only one bag. One bag at that time meant the world to me.